So we're going to start with our next topic, which is scanning the marketing environment, ethics, and corporate social responsibility. I've combined chapters 3 and 4 for this topic. We're going to start with our first introduction to environmental scanning and management. We're going to try to understand what these terms are and how they impact our marketing strategies. This is what we have discussed before. You see the circle, the yellow portions that you see in there. Those are the 4 P's: product, pricing, promotion, and place, which is also called distribution. So we have those 4 P's in there. We see our target market in the middle, which basically means based on our target market, we are going to create these 4 P's around that. And the big circle that you see in there is the external environment that impacts all of those 4 P's for us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about those external environmental factors that impact our marketing mix. We're going to talk about them in detail. So before we do that, we want to understand what is environmental scanning and management. Environmental scanning is the process of collecting information about the external marketing environment to identify and interpret potential trends. So basically what we are doing here is, as the name suggests, environmental scanning. We're really scanning the environment, which basically means we are trying to collect as much information as we can about our external environment so that we at least have an idea of, even though we cannot control the environment, but we at least have an idea of what's happening in the environment, and based on that, we can interpret some potential trends. Next is the environmental management, which is linked to this, which basically means we are trying to manage it all. We're trying to put in some marketing efforts so that we can achieve our organizational objectives and goals by doing what? By predicting and influencing the competitive, political, legal, economic, technological, and social cultural environment, which are the 5 elements of the external environment, which we are going to discuss in detail. So these are the 5 environmental forces that you see here on the bottom: social, economic, technological, competitive, and regulatory. And as we had discussed a little bit, I think we briefly discussed about this in our first chapter, about how these influence our organization, which is in the middle top, which has the marketing department and other departments and employees in the organization. And also it impacts the suppliers and customers, and all of these in turn impact the environmental forces. The organization is in the middle, which impacts the suppliers and the customers, and suppliers and customers also create an impact on the organization. So all of these basically are kind of linked to each other, where they all influence or impact each other, even though the organization, we as a marketer or as a marketing department cannot really impact, or cannot, I should say, cannot control the environmental forces, but we still in a way influence the the external environment, and we'll see how. So we're going to start off with the 5 aspects. In the 5 aspects of the marketing environment, we're going to start off with the competitive environment. What do we mean by the competitive environment? Um, there are different types of competition that exist in the market. First one that we're going to talk about is the directly competitive products. For example, if you look here, the mineral water, Fiji, the bottled water, um, what are the other products or services that are essentially the same as Fiji bottled water. And if you think about other brands that sell the exactly same product, all of those are direct competition to Fiji. For example, Aquafina, Dasani, Nestle, and so on. All of the other brands, all of the other companies that are essentially selling the same product as Fiji, all of those companies are a direct competition to Fiji. Next type is indirectly competitive products. So products that can be substituted for one another. So if you are thirsty at some point of time, you're thirsty and you want to remove your thirst, there are other options available to you. You don't have to necessarily, if you don't see Fiji anywhere, you don't have to necessarily buy other bottled water. What you can buy is you can buy Coke, and that's going to satisfy your need at that point of time. You can also buy fruit juice or many other products that can really substitute the product Fiji, the product bottled water. So indirect competition is when there are products that can substitute your original product and still satisfy the need that the customer has. So that's indirect competition, and we should be aware of our direct competitors and our indirect competitors. And that's the competitive environment. That's a part of the competitive environment. Another type of competition is all consumer purchases. Basically, what we are trying to say here is that all the products are a competition to all other products that are available in the market. So, for example, if you're visiting a mall, let's say, and you want to buy a pair of shoes. Okay, so you want to buy a pair of shoes, you go there and you're like, you know what, I have this money, let me not spend it on shoes. I want to spend this on a really nice t-shirt that I see here. So what happened there is you had a product, shoes, and you do not even have a substitution t-shirt for shoes because it's not satisfying the same need, but you still purchased a completely different product with that money that you had. And this has mainly to do with the needs and the wants that we had discussed before. If you had need to buy that pair of shoes, that is, you did not have anything to wear, and you wanted shoes, you needed to buy shoes, you would have definitely gone and bought shoes. But now that we talked about this before, now that the needs are basically changing into wants, or the wants are changing into needs, we don't really need if we don't really need the shoes, we can go and buy in some other product with that money instead of buying shoes because of the want and not the need of having them. So this brings us to discretionary income. Why do we do that? Is because of discretionary income. What do we mean by discretionary income? It's the money that remains after paying for taxes and necessities. So you get some income, you get your salary, you pay for the first thing you do is you pay for the taxes, and then the next thing you do with that money is you pay for your necessities, your grocery, or whatever you really need, not want, but really need. And even after paying for your taxes and necessities, you have some money remaining, and that's called discretionary income. In earlier days, not many people used to have the luxury of having discretionary income. They just used to have enough money to pay for their taxes and necessities, and it used to be all gone. But nowadays, many people, many customers have discretionary income. That is, they have some extra money after paying for their taxes and necessities that they can spend on anything. So, and that's why all consumer purchases is also a type of competition. You can have a product like a shoe, and your competition can be any clothing, other clothing brand. Your competition can be an electronic brand. You might go to buy a pair of shoes, but you decide, oh, I'm not going to buy the shoes. Instead, I'm going to buy a new cell phone or a new headphones. It's so basically all the products that are available in the market can be a competition to each other, and we should be aware of that. That is also included in the competitive environment. Now that we've talked about discretionary income, we can talk about the economic environment, and we can talk about some important terms in the economic environment, starting off with gross income. What is gross income? It's the total amount of money made in one year by a person, household, or family unit. So the total amount, the total salary of yours in a year, or of the household or of the family unit, is called gross income. Depends on the context, but yeah, that's gross income. What is disposable income? Is the money a consumer has left after paying for the taxes to use for necessities such as food, clothing, housing, and transportation. So the gross income is the total income, the total salary of yours. If you pay for taxes, whatever is left is called disposable income and is also called net income. The third type of income is discretionary income, which we already talked about, which is money that remains after paying for taxes and also for the necessities. So that's discretionary income. So these were the terms that we needed to know before we could actually discuss economic environment. So what is an economic environment? Factors that influence consumer buying power and marketing strategies. So why are we discussing the economic environment? Because we are interested in how that influences consumer buying power and in turn influences our marketing strategies. We want people to have the buying power. We want people to have discretionary income or to have some kind of income so that they can pay for the products or services that we are offering. And accordingly, we can change our marketing strategies. So we're going to talk about stage of the business cycle, inflation, unemployment, and income here, one by one, starting off with stages in the business cycle. So what we're gonna see in the next slide is a cyclical pattern that consists of the stages of prosperity, recession, depression, and recovery. So what we um, believe is that there's a cyclical pattern that goes on. We're going to start off understanding this with prosperity, going on next to the recession, then to depression and to recovery. And let's just get directly into what prosperity is. So a stage is a stage wherein there is low unemployment, that is, people are still unemployed, but the number of people that are unemployed is very, very less. So, a stage where we have low unemployment and high income, that's called a stage of prosperity. So, we have that stage going on overall in the economy. When we say US has a good economy, which basically means we are in the prosperity stage, that is low unemployment and high income. After prosperity comes in recession. So this is, we believe that this is always, it's like a cycle. Always after prosperity there's going to be a stage when there's going to come recession, which means we have increasing unemployment. Um, which means that now more and more people, we said that even in prosperity there was some kind of unemployment. There were some people who were unemployed, but that number was low. But in recession, the unemployment rates go high. That is, we have an increase in unemployment. Because of that, we have reduced consumer spending because people are now unemployed. They are not going to spend much on products and services, and that's what we are interested in. So reduced consumer spending, which in turn is going to lead to reduced business opportunity. So that's the stage of recession. And after recession comes in depression, and we'll talk about that separately. And after a depression, which is, again, a lower level to recession is depression. After depression, the stage comes of recovery, where we now see a decline in unemployment. And because of that, we have increased consumer spending. Because of increased consumer spending, we have increased business opportunity. And after recovery, again, it goes to prosperity. So it keeps going on and on and on. Prosperity to recession to depression to recovery to prosperity to recession and so on. So there's always this business cycle going on. There's never going to be there's never going to be this situation where there remains the stage of prosperity and now it remains the same. That's not going to happen. After prosperity, there's always going to be a stage when there's going to it's going to go to recession, and then going back to recovery and prosperity and so on. So that's the business cycle. Next is inflation. We're going to talk about inflation and deflation. What is inflation? It's the devaluation of money by reducing what it can buy through persistent price increases. You might have heard of this term a lot. They say there's a lot of inflation or there's low inflation and so on. What that means is, if we look at this example, a cup of coffee used to cost in 1970s, it used to cost 25 cents. It raised to 45 cents in 1980, increased to 75 cents in 1990s, increased to $1 in 2000, increased to 1.25 in 2010, and increased to 1.59 in 2019, and so on. So basically what we're seeing here is that the cups of coffee that we could buy in 1970 for the same amount that we can buy in now was at least 6. So we could buy at least 6 cups of coffee for 1.59 in 1970. But we can only buy 1 cup of coffee now in 2021 or 2000, and so on. So what money could buy in 1970s was much more. The same amount of money could buy in 1970s was much more than what it can buy now. So the value of money has gone down. That's called inflation. And we can, if you're interested, you can go on this website and check inflation rates of different countries. That will give you an idea of where US stands, where the other countries are, and, just to broaden your perspective about the economy of the world. That's going to tell you about that. So that's inflation. So that is devaluation of money. And deflation is the decrease in the general price level of goods and services. Now, you might think that that's a good thing. You might think that when the prices are going down, it's a good thing, but it's not. Because if you think about it, the prices of goods and services are going down because the demand of those goods and services is going down. Now, think about this. Why would the demand of goods and services go down? It would only go down because consumers' spending power is going down. They're not able to spend much, right? They're not able to spend much because their unemployment rates are going really high, increasing unemployment rates. So remember, it's the next stage after recession, which is very, very bad. Deflation is a very, very bad period, because because of all of these reasons that the demand is going down. Why is demand going down? It's going down because the unemployment rates are going up, and because of that, the consumers' spending power is going down, and so on. So that's something we have to know. So inflation, too much inflation is not good, but even deflation is not a very good stage for businesses or for anybody. Next, environmental factor, environmental force is the social or social cultural environment. Basically, the demographic characteristics of the population and the population's cultural values and norms of behavior. And we're going to discuss these two separately, demographic and culture. What is demographics? It describes a population according to selected characteristics such as age, gender, ethnicity, income stage and family life cycle, and occupation. And we had discussed this before when we talked about basis of segmentation. One of the bases was demographic segmentation. And demographic basically describes the population. It describes who all are there, what aged people are in your demographics, what's the gender, how many are males, how many are females or others, what's the ethnicity, what's the income, and so on. So demographics of a particular area or an environment is going to impact how you do your business. Okay, so that's why we want to talk about demographics. You want to know who are the people who are living in that environment where you are offering your products and services, and that's why we're discussing demographics here. Culture consists of the set of values, ideas, and attitudes that are learned and shared among the members of a group. So if you think about culture, you have your own individual cultures based on where you have been living all your life. You have a national culture, which can be maybe called American culture. So all of these, if you see, and culture is a very complicated word, but if you see, all of these are what? These are set of values or ideas or norms that you have learned and shared among the members of a group. So if you are an American um, overall on a national level, but at the same time you might also have your individual southern culture or northern culture, or whatever culture you have been following all your life. So these are the consumer's culture is going to impact how you're going to do business in that particular culture, in that particular environment. So you cannot come in here from any other culture, let's say a northern culture or an eastern culture, and then come in here in southern, the southern part of U.S., and then say this is what I'm going to offer. I don't care about what people think about this offering of mine. You can't do that. You have to be impacted by the cultural environment. You have to uh, follow what the culture asks you to follow. But at the same time, you can also influence culture. You can, it's a two-way process. You kind of influence the culture with the products and services that you offer, and the culture influences you back. You cannot control the culture, but you can definitely influence that, or any forces of the environment for that matter. So we talked about demographics. If you are interested, you can go to World CIA World Fact Book on this link that I have provided in here. You can know about different demographics, read about different countries in there, just to get a broader perspective of what's going on around the world. Demographics, how do you know? How do these guys know about demographics? Like in US, you have that US Census Board, which collects the information from different households, and then they keep updating that. Similarly, for other countries too, they have their own census boards. that collect this information and put that in there. Now, in social, when we are discussing these social forces, we need to talk about multicultural marketing and generational cohorts or generational marketing. Starting off with multicultural marketing. What is multicultural marketing? It consists of combination of the marketing mix that reflect the unique attitudes, ancestry, communication preferences, and lifestyles of different races, ethnicities, and religions. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about this much. What I want you to do is, I want you guys to go on YouTube and search for Coke Super Bowl commercial 2014. If you want to put the specific name of the commercial, it's America the Beautiful. Do that. Pause this video, go on YouTube, watch this commercial, and then come back. It's a 1 minute video. Go in there, watch that, and come back. So now if you look at this, I'm going to read this definition again. Multicultural marketing consists of combinations of the marketing mix, which is the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion, that reflect the unique attitudes, ancestry, communication preferences, and lifestyles of different races, ethnicities, and religions. If I just read this, I'm sure you're able to understand what we are talking about. By just looking at that ad, you know that multicultural marketing is incorporating different, attitudes, preferences, lifestyles of different races, ethnicities, or religions in your marketing strategy, in your marketing program. That's multicultural marketing. Talking about the generational cohorts, we're going to learn a few terms. Number one, baby boomers. This is the population that consists of generation of children born between 1946 and 1964. We just call them baby boomers. Next is Generation X, that includes 15% of the population of US born between 1965 and 1979. These people are also called baby bust. Next is Generation Y, includes 72 million Americans born between 1980 and 1994. These are also called echo boomers or millennials. And Generation Z, that includes the Americans born after 1995. So these are the generations we have. Why are we talking about these generational cohorts? Is because of this first line that you see on the top here. Today's young people differ from yesterday's. We need to understand that these generations have a difference between them. I mean, you might know this already, but as a marketer, again, you have to try to sink that in again. You have to try to think about it again, that we have these different generations. All these different generational cohorts have their own needs based on their own behaviors, based on their own consumption patterns, and we need to make sure that we know about the difference. And this is something that I have just copied from McKinsey and company have created this report, and they put the context, behavior, and consumption for all these generational cohorts. If you're interested, you can look at it, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea that these people have really collected this information and shown that how they are different from each other. And because they are different from each other, we need to cater to them separately. The next environment is the technological environment, which basically represents the application of knowledge in science, inventions, and innovations to marketing. You're probably already aware of what technology means and what technological environment can be. Basically, there's an environment created because of technology. So all the companies are impacted by this technological environment. Now that there exists so much technology, a company cannot say that, oh, I don't know about any of the technology, I'm not a tech savvy person, I'm not going to do anything about it. That's not possible these days. So the technological environment impacts all the businesses. I'm not sure if you have looked at this ad before, but I would highly recommend go and watch this advertisement. It's a 1.1 minutes and 50 seconds, 1 minute and 50 seconds commercial. Go and watch this on YouTube. You can put in Amazon Go commercial and it'll show up. Just watch that ad and come back. And you can see how, and if you've watched that ad already, you can see how this how the technology is doing nowadays, how much the technology can do nowadays. So a company cannot just close their eyes and say that we're not impacted by this technology. It's not possible these days. Each and every organization, each and every business has this technological force that impacts them, and it goes back and forth. If you watch this Amazon commercial, you'll see that having Amazon Go will impact the environment, right? And then environment will impact back again the organization, and so on. And the last one is the regulatory environment, which we are going to discuss in next class.